Hello, Channel Automation podcast listeners. Welcome back to another deep dive into the techniques that convert leads. I'm your host, KC Urias, and today I am joined by Rob Cass of Paramount Builders. Rob's been on with us before, but it's been a while. So how you doing, Rob?
Great, Casey. Appreciate you having me on board. What are we talking about today? What's going on?
Yeah, I'm happy to have you on board. So tell me a little bit. It's been a minute
All right.
since we've chat. So tell me a little bit about yourself and your position at Paramount Builders.
Cool. Yeah. So I've been around different call centers, different products, and different companies. So I love my perspective. I love that I have a perspective outside of the home improvement industry. And when you squint your eyes and you kind of look at the horizon, they all kind of look and feel the same, right? You start to hear the same things, different product, slightly different customer, but at the end of the day, the customers have the same issues. We still need to reach out to them. We still need to contact them. So there's a lot of similarities, but what I love is that I have a different perspective on how different industries have approached technology changes and reaching out to people and their scripts and all of that. So it gives me, I think it gives me an advantage coming into this scenario where we had people who were here for 20 years and hadn't been outside the box. I looked around and I said, this is the opportunity. The opportunity was, in this case, that they had been doing things the same way, and the perspective they had was just what I call on the Galapagos Islands, right? Very specific. So I come in and get to show them some cool things, and at the end of the day, it's what the rest of the world's doing. It's nothing special. It's nothing magical. It's just how you implement it and how you change hearts and minds and get them over the blinders that are on them.
So in terms of like keeping up with the rest of the world, I know that there's like a little bit of a bias that home improvement companies are still like doing their best to climb up to get there. Do you notice that having experience with other industries? Are they like further behind or like on the same par? Like how's it
Yeah,
like?
no, I would say they're slightly behind just because of the nature of everything we do. I mean, literally, these companies started out swinging hammers, knocking on doors and swinging hammers, right? So there's a mindset there. Some of them were contractors when they started, and they're slower to embrace the challenge. And I think that that speed to adopt in the right way. I'm not a techno fan for the sake of technology. I'm really not. But I think there's an opportunity anytime technology comes along. By the way, we can lag behind the rest of the world by 5 or 6 years and still be at the head of our class if we adopt technology that's already been used and proven. So we're in that space right now. And I love what we're doing with channel automation, just dragging us forward. It's pretty cool.
Yeah, we're not trying to drag you. We're just very excited because it's one of those things where not everybody is gung ho to start, moving themselves forward and getting a chance to stand out. So we're very excited about your patience. And for those of you who don't know, Paramount Builders has actually been with us for pretty much since the beginning, and we love having them as a client, working together with them. And there's just awesome people that work there they've gone from even using like cell phones and not having automatic dialers to getting all the way up to their team starting to use text messages and a lot more automation. Things are going a little bit quicker. And so, because you have gone through that whole journey, Rob, I'm wondering, how was implementation on your end? Because I know for us, we're always so excited, but was it tough? Like, what were the challenges?
So yeah, the no. And by the way, I want to clarify. You're dragging us because we've been dragging our heels, right? Like we're not walking with you. If there was any dragging going on, that's exactly what it was. So the reality is, this is no different than anything else, right? So any new ideas, there's the early adopters, and then there's the people who are just going to fold their arms and wait and see, and then there's the people who are like, "It's the devil, it's evil, it doesn't work," right? So I came in at the very early stages of implementation, and it was chaotic. Chaotic from the adoption standpoint. Some of the previous managers were just said, "This isn't going to work," and your thoughts and words become your reality. So we had previous managers saying, "This doesn't work. It doesn't integrate." Well, if you know anything about anything, nothing. You don't do something perfect the first time. I mean, you don't do it. It happens. And I think the expectation was that this is going to be great. It's going to work perfectly. It's going to go. And there were so many old school minds to change that, and I didn't know anything about channel automation or any of the technologies we had, but the comments were, and it's too easy to see, right? When you come in from the outside, having experienced this before, for people to say it's not working, the leads are terrible, the leads suck. It used to be so much better, yet we're doing more and your paycheck has gone up. And I can see that. I don't know what you're fighting me to put money in your pocket for. So I had to fight people who weren't here, who were the best managers on the history of the planet, who are no longer here, right? So I'm coming in to a scenario where it was nothing short of a hostile environment, to be honest with you. People were still sneaking their cell phones in and dialing under the desk, and then they would dial outside the dialer, and somebody else would call using the dialer. So it made it look like it wasn't working. So we became our own self-fulfilling prophecy that the system's not working. Well, the system wasn't working 100% because we were not 100% using the system, right? So it took us a long time, and you start dialing back controls and who has access to what. Now you're the new guy taking things away from people. You're basically putting blinders on so you can make more money, and I'm getting fighting from everybody all the way along the way. So it took a really long time to get everybody on board, and it wasn't voluntary. Nobody's like, all right, let's do this. They're like, nope. Okay, we're going to take this away. So you can only dial this way, and you can't dial that way. And so once they got on, then they started saying, okay, this is how it's supposed to work. You know what I mean? The beautiful thing about that is I came in from the outside. Had we used these legacy systems they were all experts in those legacy systems. I didn't know anything, right? But when we brought on the software that we brought on, and you guys basically, or when I came on and you guys were already here, I had an equal play. I had as much knowledge as they had. Nobody knew more than I do, and nobody will know more than I do if we're coming in at the same place. I will do a deep dive. I'll become a power user and really get to know how to use this and how it all works together. So that was my saving grace, that we came in here at the same time, and they weren't adopting it while I was studying it and figuring out how things worked on the back end and talking with y'all to get it work right. But no, I'm not going to lie, it was pretty miserable. If we have the time, I went to the Persian Gulf twice in the 90s on a small destroyer to the Persian Gulf, and it was miserable. It was the most miserable experience of my life. I'm proud of being in the Navy, but I would rather go to the Persian Gulf twice than redo my first year here. That's how rough it was. Yes. And I've told them that story too. I told my team that. You guys made it miserable on me. We're all one big happy family now, though.
I'm glad that you finally got to that point. And the whole reason that I'm asking you is because I know that you're very open and honest about this. And I want to bring this up for the people who are starting to adopt new systems, not just the people who work with channel automation, but people who are trying to, catch up. It's not necessarily easy. You get growing pains. And so if you start encountering a month, 2 months, even longer than that, where you're like, gosh, dang it, like I cannot get my team to be a part of this. I feel like I'm fighting an uphill battle and it's lasting forever. Rob he's speaking the gospel over here. Like sometimes you have to put in a lot of time and you can't change somebody's mind for them. It's just suddenly something clicks where they're like, "Oh, this is actually earning me more money. This is making my life a lot easier because I don't have to do as much manual work." And you can't change their mind. You just have to demonstrate it. And Rob is an excellent example of somebody who was like, "Listen, I'll take this on myself and I'll prove it." And that's why we like working with him.
I appreciate that. And I don't know what I'm like to work with. I suspect it's not always easy, but I use specific phrases, and what I tell them is, I'm not going to apologize for putting more money in your pocket. Even as you're slapping my hand and I'm putting money in your pocket, I'm not going to apologize. If I have anything to apologize for, it'll be not implementing this at the end of the year and apologizing to your family for not putting as much money as I can to the best of my ability into your pocket. And this gives us the best chance at touching the most customers and letting us get in there. You talk about the implementation, and I wasn't getting what I needed from the people I expected. So I had a massive epiphany professionally, and a girl that when I got here, I had been here 60 days, and my manager, who's no longer here, the director, actually hired me. He's like, first thing we need to do is get rid of her, get rid of these three people. So I got rid of two of them, and I was like, I'm going to leave her. He's like, nah, you got to get rid of her. Long story short, that girl, not only did I keep her, she's done exponentially better. She is the person on our team that is implementing channel automation. She was 19 at the time. She's 21 now. She has tackled what nobody else in this company could do, which is get their head around what the whole system is, lay it out. She and I now put together standard operating procedures, and again, that's Alexa. She's absolutely amazing. She gets it. She understands it. She understands that it's a career step, that it's a career builder, and I don't know if you can see this. We have this motto here that you gotta own it, and I asked her to own it. Oh, you want to take this program and own it. And she epitomizes what happens when you get somebody who's like, okay, I know it's not perfect. It's not going to be perfect, but here's what the vision is. So I laid out a vision for her and said, get us to there. I'm not going to micromanage you. And she has passed me in knowledge, in application knowledge, right? So she uses it. I call myself the program manager. I know enough. I can get in there. I can do some things, but she's really drilling down. She tells me what resources she needs. We get the resources to get her in there. The other thing we did is we started small. Like, we had a lot of people who were just like, it ain't gonna work. It ain't gonna work. And then it didn't work, and it would break, and it would step on toes. So we cleaned everybody out. We had like 2 or 3 people in. We figured out how it worked. We got it. And then once they started, because the best thing to do is show money, right? So all of a sudden, Alexa starts making more money through channel automation, right? How come she gets to be a part of that? Well, I'm going to tell you, because she spent a year and 4 months figuring this out, making the changes and understanding it without making a dime, and at the cost of her own ability to get on the phone, because her job stayed the same. So now we let people see, and now they're literally standing in line. I'm like, guys, I could open it up all day long. I could open it up to everybody on the team easily. It might even be smart for us to do that, but I'm not doing that. I'm making people ask and perform their way in to be able to use channel automation. And I will tell you what, they're sitting taller, they're getting in earlier, they're using different phraseology on the phone, and they're following our steps because they want to be in the system that they bitched about when I got here.
I mean, that just goes to show you how awesome of a leader you are, because you made it to where people were like avoiding it like the plague, and then you completely flipped the script on it. I mean, that's super impressive. And by the way, I want to ask before you continue, how is it now that you are there? Like, now that you guys are there and you're sending out text messages, what is it like with the customer experience?
So here's the funny thing. You're asking me about a case use for channel automation that is basic. It's as basic can be. I'm not excited about our ability to contact customers, because it's very cool, by the way. I'm going to come back to that. I don't mean that I'm not excited, but here's what happened. In my own understanding, as Alexa would interpret and tell me what's going on and what's capable of, I started digging around. I said, you know what? We downsized one of our departments. Unintentionally, it just happened. You have turnover, you have whatever. We had a 3-person department in dispatch. And just by chance, somebody had to move out of the area. 2 people moved out of the area. Now we're down to one. One person can't do 3 people's jobs, right? So we absorbed that one person into the confirmation department, and we never hired 2 other people, because the use case that we've stretched channel automation into something it was never designed to do, or maybe not never designed to do, but we're using it in a way that we originally didn't see on the table, and that is to communicate with our field managers, who probably have 30 sales reps among them. So we have 6 managers, right? And we have myself, 2 team leads, 3 confirmation. So we had 6 people communicating with 6 people on our cell phones. Hey, we have a same day cancel. Who's dealing with this? Who's doing this? We're all on our own individual phones. The sales managers never knew who was on duty. We didn't know what we had no place to track this. So it took us a minute to get there. But I will tell you, we have replaced 2 people who basically took them out. We didn't replace them. They pulled themselves out, and we tried to make this work without hiring anybody else. We didn't just replace it. And this is my opinion. Somebody could differ, and I'm okay with it. I'll debate it. I think we're doing a better job of communicating and keeping track of what's going on. Because I don't have two people talking to 10 people. I have six people who have access to all the same information all the time, and nothing falls through the cracks. We can see nobody responded to that. Well, I'm in a Zoom call. I can't respond to this. Yet I have one, two, three people as we speak monitoring that same day channel. You know that when somebody cancels a lead and I've got a rep driving an hour and a half away, I need to get to that person immediately, right? So not when I get out of the Zoom call, I'll call them up and I'll catch up on. No, it's real time. So that use case all by itself, we've replaced two salaries, or we didn't have to replace two salaries. And these are not low level. These are confirmers and a manager. So we're talking about a significant amount of money. But the process that we put in place was amazing. So now we've got people who are not into it, right? Not selling, confirming, and communicating. Oh yeah, that was the other thing. So we're also using it to confirm. We started using it for the agents, right? Just agents doing their thing. Awesome. That fits in a box. It's really nice. That same day stuff was really good. That solved the problem. That was just really a nightmare. We might as well have been using smoke signals to communicate. It was honestly a nightmare. The third thing that we were using this for right now is confirmation. So now we're coming back around and using confirmations to reach out to people who we set appointments with that we're not able to reach. Let's say they were out the window, a couple of days out the window. We can't get them back on the phone, and we're getting and seeing consistent sales from customers who set appointments over the phone, and just we haven't been able to get back on the phone. We turn them into confirmation over channel automation. We set the appointment, and we're seeing sales from that. And this is the first month. So we've had some success, but the data was dirty. It wasn't as clean as I would have liked. So as of January 1st, we started tracking. And last time I checked, we're at or either we're right at or slightly above $200,000 and what I would call pure channel automation sales, that we couldn't get these people on the phone. So some anecdotally good stuff. Once the end of the month comes around, I'll be able to give better numbers. But that's $200,000 in money we were not able to get. I'm pretty pleased with that.
And do you think like the reason that there's some difference as people are getting older and the new homeowners are starting to be the millennials, and then Gen Z is going to be coming up behind them? Is it just that like people are working the entire day and they're like, I'm in a meeting, I can't answer you, but I can text you back about my project? Like, why do you think that that's such a big difference?
Yeah, I think there's a lot of different answers, but I think it's an option to respond at your speed, when you want, how you want. I can respond right now while I'm in here to a meeting, to a conversation, right? Without having to say, yes, my wife will be there. Yes, we own the property. Yes, we're going to be there for an hour, right? I can hit a yes and just hit a text back. Nobody's the wiser. So I get to communicate in a way that I want to communicate. When you're on a phone, you're forcing somebody to communicate in a way that maybe they don't have time for. I accidentally picked up the phone. I didn't want to have this conversation, but channel automation just gives everybody the option to communicate at their pace in a way that they want to.
By the way, Rob here is not a paid sponsor. he's just awesome. He's a big fan, and so that's why I'm asking these questions, because there is a lot of hesitation for doing these really big changeovers, especially if you have a long established call center that already is having some success. You're like, well, I don't even want to wait for that dip to where it takes a little bit to implement and then I get successful again, hopefully. There's just a lot of risk that can go along with it.
Right. You know, the funny thing is we implemented the confirmers first, right? So I have my agents doing their stuff, and I had like two agents, one or two agents per shift, right? Super controlled, right? And then we opened up the confirmers, and I never dreamed this would happen, but it's so cool the way this happened. I'm not forcing anybody to do anything. I'm going to show people how to make money. Choose your poison. Do what you need to do. Go. Like, there are some people who don't. They want to be on the phone. They're like, I kill it on the phone. Awesome. Keep doing that. But here's the thing. Confirmation started doing we had the agents. Then confirmation started doing confirmation. And then we started that same day channel, right? So now we are using this in three different ways. And I remember, okay, I'm going to open it up, right? I'm going to open up channel automation to a couple of more reps in the morning, a couple in the afternoon. And I went up to one of the senior reps in the evening, and I said, "Hey, we want to open up the channel automation to you, and give you the opportunity to take part of that." She's like, "Absolutely not. Nope, not doing it." And I was like, "Check," and I walked out of the room. And I'm not begging people to make money, right? I'm going to put opportunities in front of you. If you were shutting the door down that quickly, I'm done fighting. So I walked out of the room. I was going in to talk to another rep who was next on the list, and she said, "Whoa, whoa, 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 hold on a second." What happened was one of the confirmers heard her say no, and she talked to her. And she said, "Are you out of your mind? You need to chase him down before he goes and gets someone else and replaces you." So Des came in, and she's like, "Rob, I want to give it a shot." So we mentored her. We had her sit with somebody, just a little bit, and then we did a little bit. She's killing it. That was all this month, right? So this month, I said, "Des, you have numbers you want to hit this year. I'm going to put one more tool in your tool belt that'll give you another way to make money. You're not going to make all your money using channel automation, but you're going to make more. And you set some lofty goals for me to help you get to. This is part of how we're going to get there. This is one of the tools." And but my point is, confirmation helped me with an agent to turn an agent's mind around, and that was all the difference. Her perspective was, "Oh, this is a gift. We better not throw this down." She's had at least 4 sales strictly through channel automation, and today's the 30th. So we probably introduced that to her 3 weeks ago. She has 12 sales total, 3 of those. So what was that, 30, 40%, 40%, 30%? Anyways, of her sales came from channel automation. That's
That's so
now
impressive.
here's the crazy thing. Now she's my best advocate for channel automation. Best advocate, right? So we're doing this organically. I'm like, I'm not going to argue with you guys. They're telling each other. They're hearing and seeing the success stories. Now they want to be a part of it, and I'm not just opening it up. This is a premier product, and it's going to make you more money. But you've got to walk and talk the way we need to, and you've got to listen. You've got to be a student of the game. You've got to be a student of your stuff. You have to have that understanding, and those who do, it's a whole new world.
Brilliant and very eloquently said. What would you say? I was just trying to remember something that you were talking about earlier. Where do you think that the bottleneck, once you get all of this automation happening, like one of the things that we're constantly reminding people is you cannot do a set and forget campaign. This is something that you always have to continuously update and make sure that you are staying ahead of the competition. Where do you find the bottleneck is when it comes to changing over strategies, because you're a lead conversion expert and you have a whole bunch of lead conversion experts working under you? Where do you notice there is, like, before you got automation, where is the bottleneck, and after you put in the automation, where does it bottleneck now?
So there's always speed to lead, but speed to lead is not always an accurate assessment of what the problem is. Everybody wants to complain about the leads, about the technology. Nobody ever wants to look at what they're doing, right? So the part of the problem that was mind numbing to me is nobody was leaving voicemails. They were just flying through calls. By the way, you burn through leads. You're calling somebody way too often if you're going through the leads. So the bottleneck was getting to the leads, right? Or so we thought. Um, and everybody always wants to spend more money on leads. Employees are, we're not buying enough leads. We're buying plenty of leads. We're not converting them, right? So that's what are we doing with the leads that we have? The problem is never money. If it is, that's an easy problem. We can throw money at the problem. The problem is nobody wants to do the work, right? So I will tell you that it was something to do with speed to lead and getting access and getting connects with customers, but it really was an internal problem collectively, which is really difficult to convince people. We need to slow down. We need to leave messages. We need to use technology in different ways to reach the people that we're not reaching, right? So the amount of people that we're paying leads for and never reaching is we got to fix that. Hey, let's fix that. Like, let's do a deep dive on why we're not contacting them and figure out how we can contact them. And by the way, part of the answer is ta-da, channel automation. We can now reach people who weren't picking up the phone, right? So now we're capturing, hear what I'm saying. 2 people no longer here, not paying those salaries. Now we've done just again, I'm rubbing my belly anecdotally. We have at least $200,000 of revenue, right? $200,000 of revenue, and we haven't bought an extra lead. Did not spend another dime for lead. My goal is always to find out what's fallen on the floor, see how we can make profit out of that, and then make sure our processes are tight, make sure our people are tight, and we're not as tight as we need to be before we spend any money.
And that is one of the most common. I'm really glad that you mentioned, like, it's very easy to say, like, my leads are crap, I can't convert on them. But then you're like, once I did a deep dive into it, I discovered, surprise, surprise, there needs to be the effort there to convert. And I'm glad that you mentioned leaving voicemails too, because I can't tell you how many people I've talked to where they just don't do that. And if they don't leave a voicemail and they get a call or multiple calls from the same number, maybe it's coming up as scam or spam likely. How are they even going to know who you are or why you're calling? Right. So, and this is something that other companies that are working in the industry, they may be the ones that leave the voicemail. And guess what? Now, even though they were second in line to you reaching them, now you are behind them again because you're not doing as much effort.
Yeah, and what I tell my team is, so I'm going to give you some numbers too, if you don't let me forget this. So I'm going to just write down some quick numbers. 250. I tell my team, if you can't be number one, then be the number one, number two, right? And you can't do that if you're not leaving an imprint on them. If we're just calling up and picking and plugging to the next one, there's no chance to give an imprint. Even if that person has already made an appointment and they're okay with that, there's a really good chance that sales rep is going to not make them feel good about it, right? We want to be the number one, number two if we can't be number one, right? So give them a reason when that first one fails to come back to us. It be gracious in your exit of the phone when they tell me they've already gone with somebody. It's a strategy I've used in real estate, and it's phenomenal because I can always rely on humans to be humans and sales reps to be sales reps. Inevitably, they're going to piss somebody off, right? So if we're the number one, number two, I'm just and by the way, that person who went ahead of us, they made our job really easy. They're just laying down and they're saying, "Come on in, take my money. As long as you're not mean to me, as long as you're not a jerk." Right? But let me just give you a quick number. So my reps used to plow through about 375 to 450 calls per day, right? Per rep. That's a lot, right? Because they weren't leaving voice messages. What that means is we're just burning leads. You can't buy enough leads to have these people called, right? But when they slow down and start making voicemails, that number drops down to 250. Now we're getting 200. We're not leaving voicemails on 250. We're leaving, let's say, 90, 60, 80, 90. And by the way, we have a thought process on how to leave voicemails. I don't want to go too far down this path, but my point is that 450 number drops down to 250, but they're quality touches and they're part of a conversation. They're part of a journey, a customer journey. We're not leaving the same voicemail for every single customer. Every single lead has a different story to it, where they are in the journey. Hey, this is the first call up to, hey, we're not going to bug you anymore. If you don't need that 25%, call us when you do. We'll be happy to. We're going to take you out of our system so we don't bug you anymore. That fear of loss stimulates more callbacks than the first, second, or third call. That, hey, Casey, I think I'm bugging you at this point. I'm going to let you go. Would love to answer your questions when you're ready, but just give us a shout. We'll be here. We're not going anywhere. We've been around 32 years. You know what I mean? So, that kind of stuff. Like, we're not desperate. We'll be here when you're ready. And a lot of times are like, and you'll know when you've done this right, when you've made this journey right for the customer after leaving 2 or 3 voicemails and you haven't spoken to them, but the first callback is, I am so sorry that I have not called back. That's how you know you've done it right. Not, Casey, you better call. We have special, you know what I mean? But we can augment that voice journey with channel automation and texting, right? It sounds something like this. Casey, I reached out. I tried to beat you by phone, left a voicemail for you last week and sent you a text. Listen, you got everything you need to know to reach out to us. Call us when we can help you out. But now, hey, that's the person who left the voicemail. They're connecting dots that they didn't have before. And we're just touching them in different ways.
That it's so true. And honestly, this is something that we've talked about over and over and over on this podcast, and when people ask us directly, like, okay, well, on your strategy, how many phone calls do you make a day, and how many should I make a day after I start implementing text messages? And I'm like, that's up to you, but do you, as a user, are you sitting there like, well, the first 4 times they called me, I wasn't sure about it, but that fifth phone call, I don't know, something changed and now I want to work with those people. No, no, that's not how it
Right,
works.
right, right. Yep, no. So again, it has to be thought out. It has to be applicable to the industry. But one of the strongest things we don't all forget, but some people forget, and sometimes I forget. I'm also a consumer. What do I want to hear? How do I want to be touched? How do I want to be reached? And how do I want to be communicated with? And I appreciate different options. You know what I mean? And if you can answer some of that through the chat, that's awesome. Eventually, I might pick up, but sometimes I might not need to. So we're not all experts, but we're experts at being us, and we're experts at being consumers that we've been our whole life. So, worst case scenario, you can put yourself honestly, and that's the problem with a lot of people. They can't put themselves honestly in as a consumer and take their headphones off. And they're like, no, I totally would. You wouldn't talk to your own parents like that. And if somebody talked to you like that, you'd hang up. Why are you doing this? You know what I mean? Oh, no, I don't sound like that. You sound horrible. You know what I mean? Stop the madness. You wouldn't let someone talk to you like that. So that's it. I could be wrong about all this.
It's psychology. So like if you're talking to somebody like they're not a person, then why would they feel like they're being taken care of? And why would they give you thousands of dollars to do something with them if you're just treating them like an object that like you're looking at them like a wallet rather than looking at their face, you know?
Yeah.
All right. Well, I'm going to go ahead and wrap it up for today. Is there any last words you want to put into our listeners? Any advice you want to give?
Oh, I appreciate it. And I think take the long view on it. Take the long view. Be patient. Seek to understand the process and how you can apply it, and just keep it simple for yourself in the beginning. Other uses will open up, but just find one that you think you can use and use that. And that way, you'll help learn the software and the systems and find other ways to apply it. But just don't get too much too quick. Go in, figure one way, get some success, get some team members that understand it, and then expand it from there.
Stage implementation and recording of errors so you can improve is very important. And that's how it is with technology. I mean, any technology you put in. So that's going to be it for us today. Whether you love or hate what we talked about, we do want to hear from you. So go ahead and leave us a comment on our YouTube. You're welcome to shoot us an email at hello@channelautomation.com. And please consider subscribing to this podcast. You know, we're on Apple Music, we're on Spotify, wherever you listen to your podcasts, subscribe to us. The numbers definitely help. And continue getting free marketing tips and strategies that you can use on your phone calls. And as always, make sure to keep your lead conversion high.